welcome back, my beautiful people. We are back for Inside the Process, another week, another episode 19. They're absolutely fine by, mate. They're absolutely fine by.
I
I feel
know.
like the first episode was last week. It's absolutely fine by. But this week, we've got a good one. We've got a lot of topics we want to cover, and it's pretty much just answering viewer questions that me and Lewis have both received pretty much. And again, it's really good to see the sort of amount of interaction that people get and
Oh yeah,
the questions
100%.
they ask. Like, pretty much this full episode will literally just be questions from the DMs that people have asked us to cover, topics that they want to know a little bit more in depth from. And again, if you want, topics covered from an educational standpoint, or you just want to, know a little bit more, just send us a message either over my Instagram, over on Lewis' Instagram, or over on the Inside the Process Instagram account. So, yeah, that is what we've got in store today. Pretty much answer viewing questions. Mr. Lewis Agnew, how is prep? How is things for yourself? And how has your week been?
Mate, everything's great. We've got a high day going on today.
Oh,
Spoke about it a little bit on the beforehand. My high days have now went up to 575 carb.
crazy, mate. Crazy.
Yeah, like it's getting to the point where like I'm not struggling to eat the meals, but it's like, when you're in that cusp of the gaining phase where you're about to transition into struggling to eat meals, that's where I am now.
Again,
But
mate, like, it's such a good problem to have. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
mate. Honestly, it's such a as you say, such a good problem. Like it's just been more of the same, mate. Like
Yeah.
literally more of the same, just the same day every single day, and
Yeah.
it's bliss, mate. Everything's coming to life. Like
Yeah,
it's
we were obviously we went bowling with the boys the
oh
other day
yeah,
as well, which was good. And it's like it's good to do that stuff even when you're in prep as well. Like I did
yeah,
that at the kind of start as well before I was kind of became a zombie. But like it's good to do those things like just like, to chill out. And as we kind of were discussing when we were driving there, like your stress is just like at an all time low, mate.
yeah. Like I mean, I'm actually like so chilled out.
Yeah,
Like I've got obviously things going on in my life that a lot of people would probably stress about, but I'm just like, there's no point. Like there actually is
100%.
no point. Like see when you actually realize. I think like people can say, "Oh, don't stress." Like, don't stress. There's no point in stressing. But see, for me anyway, like until I actually knew the effect that stress would have, I didn't really realize the importance of managing it. I'm literally like I'm never stressed. The most stressed I get is watching Glasgow Rangers kick a ball. Like that's it, mate.
Listen, mate, you can see that within how easy your pet's been so far and
Yeah,
how much steps forward in conditioning you've took and how fast it's been is because like your lifestyle just absolutely nailed to a T. And again, like when it comes to stress, like to a certain extent, like you can control how stressed you are.
like
Obviously,
literally
things are going
everything.
to
Yeah.
happen in life, but like how you react to situations is literally within your control. And when you realize that, it's
Mhm.
such a like peaceful feeling because
Oh yeah.
like like it's almost like I'm actually reading a book. I actually just finished a book and it's about like the life of a Buddha, right, and how it
Mhm.
relates to just like general life, and it is very interesting. It's like it talks a lot about the present moment, like your thoughts, and like how our thoughts is all like what they can explain is pretty much that our thoughts are in our head, but we're almost like a viewer of our thoughts, so we can like pick and choose, the thoughts that we almost like cling on to, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like you have control over what you think on a daily basis, the way you operate, etc. is all down to you. Obviously, we have natural reactions to stuff, but taking like a step back pretty much and just almost viewing it from like a third person perspective, almost like a in a very Buddha-like mindset is something that I'm trying to be a little bit more aware of and just being in the present moment. I think that's helped a lot as well. Even in the off season, just like keeping
Yeah.
stress as low as possible. Like my appetite, my digestion is still absolutely firing. Like just
Yeah.
because my lifestyle's absolutely nailed to and the difference that makes is humongous, mate.
Mate,
Humongous.
100%. Just living just a chilled out lifestyle. Like,
Yeah.
see, like I know a lot of people, for instance, like most of the time, right, I'll get like 9.25, so 9 to 9 hours and 15 minutes of sleep every night. But sometimes I might work till 10 o'clock, and then I'm only going to get like 7 hours and 45.
Yeah.
I
And
don't
again,
stress though because every
you
other day is
yeah.
like bang on.
'Cause the thing is, like, you can't control that. Like, all
Yeah,
that you can
literally.
control, that
Yeah.
you're maximizing what you can control, and that's all that you have control over. So yeah, but the first topic and kind of question that I got was based around logbooking, progressive
Mhm.
overload, and standardization of that. So they kind of just want to dive into that. So straight out of the gates, what I would say is like, you know, logbooking is such a good tool, mate. I'm not sure about you, but at the start anyway, I will get all of my clients to logbook their sessions. And if need be, if it's about le developing the knowledge of how to actually logbook properly and
I
the
agree.
things to look out for, because the problem comes with logbooking is that anxiety, that lack of patience, the rushing the logbook. That's when, the problem comes with the logbook. The logbook itself isn't the problem, it's about how people approach it, in my opinion. So with logbooking is simply a tool. Okay, it's a tool
Yeah, 100%.
to like. Yes, we want to be beating the logbook, preferably on a weekly basis. That's obviously the goal when we go into our sessions. However, it's not absolutely everything. And if you don't, beat the logbook from last week, it's not like you're not taking steps forward. Especially when
Mhm.
it comes to advanced lifters, being patient. Like, you may not progress every single set, every single week. That isn't necessarily a sign that you're doing too much volume, etc. We'll obviously get into that as well, but it's just a sign that, especially when it comes to progressive overload, sorry, patience is so, so key. So, so key. A lot of people rush to change things just because, they haven't progressed 1 week, when in, reality, when you've got past those neurological adaptations, you're a good few weeks, few months into your training plan, your mesocycle, whatever you want to call it, progress should and will be slow. You're
Yeah.
fighting for those plus ones, you're fighting for that kilo, the extra kilo on the machine, on the bar. And that is a sign that, muscle is being added. And therefore, when muscle is being added, you're going to get stronger. That's just a byproduct
Yeah.
of, you know, adding new tissue is getting stronger. So again, the logbook is simply a tool, a diagnostic tool, is how I like to kind of word it, to assess, if recovery is correct, if volume's in the right parameters, your recovery capabilities as well, your external variables. These things need to be nailed to ensure that the logbook is actually a true representation of, your program, your session, etc. But what sort of your thoughts on logbook as well? How do you sort of go about that with clients, and how do you, what's the sort of mindset approach you have towards that?
I think, like, especially with new lifters, they can get like kind of caught up in a little bit, like, oh, I didn't progress a little bit this week, but literally, like, I had one literally like a few days ago, like, oh, like I didn't progress this, like I maintained, but you literally you take a look at the clip, you look at the speed of the last rep versus the speed of the last rep on the the one the week advancing, and you put them side by side, and the difference is night and day. Sometimes the logbook doesn't tell the full story, um, because you could tidy up a set like so much, you get so much more stimulus from it. But obviously on the logbook, that may even look like a -1 on the logbook, but realistically, it's progressive stimulus. But I am a massive fan of the logbook. That is like, for myself anyway, like, that is, I put a lot of my progress down obviously in the off season, just like simply getting strong, and just getting in, being anxious about the logbook, yeah, but just like carrying that and just getting on with it is, that's when I've seen the most growth, to be fair, within my own physique. But with regards to like progressive overload and stuff, like, people often think that, like, you need to progressive overload to build the muscle, but like you were saying, that's progressive overload is a like that's the proof that the adaptation has actually taken place. So
Yep.
realistically, like, the confidence within your sets should come from the work that you've done in the lead up to that set. The progressive overload is almost already done. You just need to like prove that it's happened. You just need to prove that the adaptation is that it's happened, and obviously that comes within the realms of standardizing your sets, like doing all this sort of stuff, to make sure everything is it's a fair comparison. But yeah, it's a very big sort of topic. It's a very big scope, but that's kind of my take on the little subtopics there.
Yeah, like standardization, that is the key word here. Like,
Yeah.
your sets, how you perform the sets need
Mm.
to literally be the same every single week. And the problem comes when people chase numbers in the logbook when they're not patient. They start to, they might get a +1, they might get, added weight in the bar. However, the execution is worse. They've shortened the range of motion. They're
Yeah.
bouncing out the hole, etc. So this is key. And again, this is sort of like standardization within your training, the control, the breathing, how you approach a set, that comes with experience. That is a skill in itself, learning how to standardize your sets.
Yeah.
And again, filming your training to make sure that it is standardized. Because even for myself, like, again, we still say this, I literally film majority of my sets in the gym. And literally, as soon as I get off the set, like when I'm resting between sets, like, I'll look back at the set and just kind of make sure that everything is standardized. That, I'd be honest with myself as well. Like, in my logbook, if that plus one rep I got was not to the
Oh yeah,
highest quality execution, like I literally put it as like plus one. You know, I won't actually note it down as well. Like how you note down your logbook is so important as well. Because if you note down that you got 9 reps, but the last 2 reps were very sloppy, and then you go in next week trying to beat that number, it's just going to get even more sloppier. And then you look back at like 6, 8 weeks ago how that set looked, and it's a completely different set because
yeah,
the quality of execution is a lot worse. And again, the goal within progressing your training is to progress the stimulus. Okay, it's not to. As you said, that I really liked how you worded that as well. It's almost just proof that you're progressing, and that's
yeah,
exactly what logbook is. The goal is to, again, the priority should always be to have the highest quality of execution to make sure that the stimulus is maxed out in the sets, and then from there standardizing that going forward, ensuring that from there you're progressing the logbook. And again, progress should be slow. Progress should be slow, and that's a sign
yeah.
that you're doing things properly. But this is something I actually went over yesterday in a post was, every single week since I started this off season, I've literally been coming in, getting plus ones, getting little biscuits added, but the quality been maintaining it. And, I literally just turned the page. I look back at, it was my lateral raise set. I was like, fucking hell, I've been progressing really well on this. So I looked back at my logbook and I looked at, the sets, the weight and reps of what it was in the first week and comparing it to what it is now, mate. Like I'm literally up like I think it's like 6 kg in the top set. And then my third set is now the exact same load but more reps than my first set 15 weeks ago. And like
Yeah,
that just compound and it's literally just been a
yeah.
case of
That
coming
shit
in
shows in the physique, man. Like,
100%.
yeah, no, I think as you were saying, the key to everything is standardization. You can't make fair comparisons if things aren't standardized. You can't. It's literally immeasurable. Like when all these different variables are literally skewed, and that goes for stuff outside the gym as well. Like you can't make accurate comparisons if you're having, like obviously again, set meal timings is almost like a kind of luxury. But if you're like willy nilly having meals at this time and that time and changing your sleep and wake time, or you can't make these fair comparisons with things like scale weight. Like obviously within like people have work life outside the bodybuilding and stuff like that, and things may get in the way. But obviously trying to keep it standardized to the best possible standard just means the data that you get back out of it is as accurate as it possibly can be. And again, it's standardized so you can make those fair comparisons.
Yeah, like the case where as well where, for clients that I do have some clients who don't use the logbook and we've
Yeah,
actually took away the logbook, and that is because of their external variables. Like it cannot be standardized. The jobs that they work,
yeah,
they might have different shifts every single week,
yeah,
different, things going on in their life, and they're not able to have that standardized lifestyle. Therefore, when they go in the gym and they're not able to progress every single week, like it can be a little bit of a mind fuck. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So that would be the case where I would say that the logbook actually taking it away, if it is creating that anxiety, is super key. And again, all you should be focused on is just making sure that, see, as long as you're giving 100% in every single one of the sets,
yeah.
like if you
Yeah,
don't
what we
progress,
spoke about
like,
yesterday.
yeah, like we spoke about yesterday as well, like all you can focus on is give it 100% into every single one of your sets. And if it's a balance between like not forcing it, but at the same time, like the progress just isn't going to be handed to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
All you can focus on is give it 100% every single one of the sets. And if you progress that week, you progress that week, you log it down. It's really that simple. And again, just try not to have anxiety around the logbook and realizing the context out with that. Has your sleep been a little bit worse? Has your recovery been a little bit less? And that would
yeah,
make sense why maybe this week the logbook hasn't been progressing as you would like it to. But again, everything within your control outside the gym, this is why we maximize this to make sure that we are
mhm,
progressing, to make sure that we are recovering. Because again, you don't build muscle in the gym. You build muscle outside the gym when you're recovering, and that's where the true sort of adaptation takes place. So yeah, anything else you want to sort of cover in regards to that?
I think just ending it with a simple phrase of within the realms of progressing the logbook, confidence comes from execution and not from
Love it.
affirmations.
Love it. Absolutely love it, mate. That is beautiful. Next topic will be about surplus. So the growth phases, we've got a
Mhm.
question into when to increase calories and by how many. So I'm going to fire that first of all, that kind of starting off with yourself. When
Mm,
to increase calories?
Realistically, like you can obviously base it off of scale weight, base it off of your look, base it off of recovery capabilities and stuff like that. But I think obviously the further that you push into a gaining phase, you kind of can't really go off of the look as much.
Yeah,
Because again, it's obviously blurred by fat loss. And again, you obviously need to go off of things like training performance, scale weight, in that sort of realms of things. But obviously things like appetite too. Like there's no point in like pushing food when your appetite is fucked. And again, if you're not doing everything to maximize your appetite, there's no point in adding like fuel to that because it's actually like someone is not adhering to a plan. There's no point in changing the plan that they're not adhering to in the first
yeah.
place. Like, that's kind of my take on that. With regards to by how much, again, that's just it's kind of person dependent, and kind of the way I like to think about it is understanding that every food increase, although like it's a positive thing, realistically it is a tool lost. And kind of throwing 50 carb, 75 carb, or even 100 carb at things at a time may not be the most beneficial thing, because realistically you could be weeks down the line, appetite's a little bit not in the bin but a little bit less off, and you could be like, I really wish I'd have just kept that food increase. Like you just have that in your locker. So realistically, I would just go off of like you want to be in that surplus as long as you possibly can. I'm 25 to 40 gram carb increments when I increase my food. It's literally like 100 to like 200 calories.
Yep, I agree with everything you said there. I think people really underestimate how much of a surplus they need to be in as well.
Yeah.
And again, to actually increase your food, you need to be eating consistent amounts of food every single week. Because, mate,
Hmm.
some people will ask this question, but they won't be eating, set macros for, train day, rest day, or just weekly calories. They're
Yeah.
eating
Yeah.
all over the place. Like, you can't increase the calories if you're not actually eating a consistent amount every single week. So that's the
Hmm.
first thing you need to get down is making sure that you are eating consistent calories every single week. And again, when it comes to the importance of things I like to look at in a growth phase is your training performance, then I'll go to visuals, then I'll go to scale weight. That'll be the sort of order of importance, I would say. Realistically, see if your scale weight holds for a week or two and your training performance is absolutely fine. There's no need to add in more food as well. And I
Hmm.
think, mate, like, I'm what 15 weeks into my off season now. I think there's been maybe two food increases, and
Yeah.
that's with that initial bump, and that's because the food increase and the consistency that I've had. I've just been eating in a consistent surplus, and my body weight's just been trickling up, trickling up. And when you have your process nailed, this realistically should be the case in most
Yeah.
cases. So I think consistency is super, super important there. In regards to when to increase calories, again, it would be sort of, I would like to be patient with it again.
Yeah.
Your goal is to be in a surplus for as long as possible. You only need to be in a slight surplus. Again, you can still grow from maintenance realistically. Obviously, I would prefer you to be in a slight surplus, but that is something to note as well. You don't need a lot of calories. You do not need to be in a large surplus. And again, the amount of fuel you need to actually fuel your performance recovery is probably a lot less than you think. So again, the goal is to be in that gaining phase for as long as possible. And I would be, looking at if your body weight stalls for a good like 2 to 3 weeks, that's when I would be looking, possibly looking at a food increase. Not if it stalls, like if it's the same weight as last week. Again, that can happen, but then if be patient, you might notice that, your body weight starts to kind of slowly start to trend upwards again.
Yeah.
And I've seen that very, very often with clients. Again, that patience is super, super key. And that's, again, the importance of getting a coach by your side is not rushing that process, being patient, mate. I've literally had gaining phases right now with my clients, and we've generally not had to make a change in a good like 10 to 15 weeks
Yeah.
because their training's been absolutely fine. They've been extremely adherent to the plan, and they've just been eating a consistent surplus, and their body
Yeah.
weight has just been slowly, slowly trending upwards. And maybe not even trending upwards on a weekly basis, but if you look at it compared to last month and the month
Yeah.
before that, it's still up. It's still
Yeah.
up on average. And I think zooming out and looking at it from a longer term basis, like a month to month basis, is very
Hmm.
important as well when it comes
Yeah.
to that. But with how many calories, I'm the exact same as you. Again, the calories are going to be mainly from carbohydrate increases as well. As we
Hmm.
know, that is what is going to fuel training performance the most. So
Yeah.
again, when it comes to sort of how you distribute your macros, realistically, higher carb, in my opinion, will always be better because you're going to have more fuel for recovery and training performance, which again
Yeah.
is the most important variable when it comes to gaining phases and your tissue is to have as much fuel as possible towards training performance. So again, the pretty much I would say pretty much only the food increase that mainly happens is from carbohydrates, and for myself, it would be around that 25 to 50 gram of carb increase at a time. I think slow increments is the best scenario again.
percent.
If you if you increase 25 grams of carbs in next week, they're the exact same weight. Okay, we added in another 25 grams of carbs instead of adding in 100 grams of carbs, and
Yeah.
their weight just
And
spikes
then
up. Like
yeah,
I
and the
would
weight
rather be a
spikes up, and then you need to pull it back down and da 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 da
yeah,
da. It's just
yeah.
fucking
You can
hassle.
always add in more food, mate. You can always add in
Yeah,
more food. So that would
100%.
be um my sort of take on that. Anything else you want to go over there?
Yeah, I think from like a food increase standpoint as well as understanding when you are pushing carbs up, protein's obviously going to come up alongside that with obviously with trace protein and stuff like that, even with things like fucking rice, pasta. Um, but with regards to like obviously we're saying like the main thing that you want to be increasing is carbs. Literally for the reasons you just stated there. I think for like people like ourselves though, specifically like me, my fat's got pretty high in my off
Mhm.
season. I think I was 90 fat on a non-training, 95 fat on a non-training day. Um, Fats can really increase the palatability of your meals, especially if it's in the
Yep.
form of fucking your finest cheddar.
Cheese,
Um,
yeah.
so like just using that, especially if your carbs are literally like 550 plus, you can always get away with adding in like a little bit more fat if appetite is an issue. And again, it helps just make your meals a little bit more like it spices them up a little bit. And again, it's not really from like a training standpoint you benefit, but you just benefit from like a from an appetite standpoint, as I said.
How did you see when your fats were that high? Did you notice that your digestion was a little bit slower, or did you feel like it didn't actually make an impact?
Mate, like I've never really had digestive issues. The only time I get digestive issues is when I'm like, well, I know it because I'm due a deload. Like food
Hmm.
sits too long, and
Yeah.
like I'm so like in tune with that. Like I feel it. And when I was beginning to get not well, I
Hmm.
felt that like food was sitting too long, like it was taking too long to digest. I'm sitting eating like a 400 calorie meal, and I can still feel it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what's going on here?
Again, it's like with everything, like you need to take in all of the variables.
Yeah,
There's context around it. And again, this is what I say to people when they ask me like questions about the process. I'm like, give me as much fucking
yeah,
context as possible, because if I give you like if you give me little context and I give you an answer, like realistically, is it going to be that accurate? Probably not, because there's so much things to consider. And
hmm
again, highlights the importance of coaching there. But for myself, mate, like see when my fats got up to 70, like post prep, like I could genuinely feel that my digestion was a lot slower. Like when I would eat a meal, like I could feel it just sitting a little bit longer, compared to where I am now, where my fats are in like 50, 55. Like my meals digest so fast, mate, so fast.
yeah.
Again, very person dependent. For yourself, it's completely fine, but for me, it does
Yeah,
affect my
100%. It's
digestion.
so person dependent. And like, I was actually wanting to touch on this as well with regards to increasing in foods. Um, Obviously with the off season, you do have a little bit more, a higher degree of flexibility, realistically, but that doesn't mean be a twat with your off plan meals.
Yeah.
And again, it's so person dependent though, because see, towards the end of my gaining phase, I was eating two off plans a week,
Yeah, but
and
as well, that's because like your food was so high that
yeah,
when you would
yeah.
eat that off meal, like you probably weren't eating like above the
Mhm, yeah,
calories that you're already eating.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like so unbelievably person dependent, and like the person that's on like like say the 3,200 wouldn't really be able to get away
Yeah,
with pushing two off plan meals, obviously off plan meal dependent. Whereas like obviously I was pushing upwards of 4,500, so for myself having two off plans a week was just a nice break.
hundred
Like
percent.
mate, like half the time when I'd go out for two off plan meals, it would be like I'd get like a burger. It wasn't even be like a pure dirty burger. It was a nice wee burger place. It wasn't like a Five Guys or anything. And like a wee side of macaroni.
Yeah.
It's not even. It wouldn't have been the same calories as my fucking meal.
Yeah, obviously genetically dependent, of course, but at the
Yeah,
same time,
100%.
like, see, because you fucking nailed your training, like the
Yeah,
food that you were eating was being fueled all towards
yeah,
your
yeah.
training, like, and with that, you were able to build up that baseline of food.
hmm
What people make the mistake of is when it comes to off-pan eating, especially out of diet, they take the fucking piss, they increase their surplus, they double their surplus because they're just eating off-pan every single week. They
Yeah.
can't bring up their baseline of food, and when you get to the end of the off season, because they've fucked that initial or just throughout, the off-pan eating,
Mhm.
their surplus is a lot higher. Therefore, the baseline is, it needs to stay lower because they're
Yeah.
eating their overall weekly surplus is coming from shit food. You know, a lot of the weekly surplus is coming from the off-pan eating, which has, you know, not really been it's not really fueling their recovery in their process,
Yeah,
and it just leads to
100%.
a lot less progress. So I think that's something big as well when it comes to your calorie increases is adherence. Again, it comes to the basics, mate. It always just
Yeah,
rolls back to the
100%. It's
basics
always
of
been these pillars.
100% consistency, adherence to the meal plan, it makes sure you're eating the same foods every single week and you're not taking the piss with off plans. I think that covers that topic very, very well, mate.
Yeah.
Next topic that we're going to be transitioning to is more training based. So, in regards to volume, so training volume, we've got a question here to high versus low volume, doing the max volume you can recover from, and how do you recognize if your volume is too high? So we'll start off with what is the difference between high volume and low volume, and with yourself when it comes to clients, you know, like especially for myself, like there's a lot of variability between volume that certain clients are doing to, you know, other clients are doing. So how would you sort of go about that, and you know,
Yeah, I
anything
think
to do
high
with it?
volume and low volume so, that's set, like, I'm not too sure I like that phrase. It's like a
Yeah,
how long's a piece of
yeah,
string? Like,
literally.
high volume for me isn't high volume for someone else, like,
Yep,
and it's when it comes to programming, if you've got someone who, like, bodybuilds, like, and that's just what they do, you could push the boat a little bit more compared to someone who, you know, is, like, on their feet, like, a lot like coaching football, for example, like you're going to be able to you're going to be able to get a lot more into someone who's, you know, maybe sat on their ass all day like at an office job, and then just bodybuilds rather than someone that's on their feet. So again, like, obviously understanding recovery capabilities for first and foremost, but how you do that is realistically, I'm always a big advocate of, you know, pushing too far and then you can pull it back from then. Like,
yeah,
you don't know unless you go too far, and that is, you can't find your maximum unless you push it. Like,
yeah,
it genuinely is as simple as that. But I think with regards to high and low volume, like, should you, like, continue to push for the absolute maximum? Again, it's person dependent. I think, like, if you've got, like as you were saying before, like someone who's got like varied shifts and it's a physical job and stuff like that, if you're constantly pushing the absolute maximum volume to the point where you couldn't even get away with a fucking drop set, and say they have a slightly more fatiguing day at work or a slightly worse off sleep, they're going to be so much more worse off in
yeah.
those next sessions. And again, it's just not going to be productive in any way, shape, or form. With regards to their training, if that person in that sort of circumstance is, you know, pushing super super hard, from a volume standpoint. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
when it comes to volume, like a lot of people ask questions like, you know, how much volume should I be doing per week, etc. Like there never will be a number that's
yeah.
going to be
Just fuck
accurate.
about and find out, man.
Yep, exactly, and that's something I was going to get into. Like, you only know how much volume you can get away with by doing it yourself. It's very person dependent. Again, genetics, what you can actually recover from, how well you're executing your sleep recovery. You know, variables is very important as well. But when it comes to volume, what we want to be looking at is just not just how much volume should you do per body part per week, but the main thing you need to be looking at is how much progressive volume. So,
Yeah,
and that needs to be happening. You need to be progressing. So if you add in a set, let's say you're pushing the boat with volume, okay, and you add in a set or two, and you know you look at again the logbook. The logbook is a key tool here when it comes to adding in volume, taking away volume, etc. You need to make sure that you are progressing the volume. Okay, that every single set should be should be progressing. If progress is not happening, the set is pretty much a waste of time. Like
yeah,
that's kind of what that is telling you. So that's kind of where to look at. You know, when you're able to, you know, when you reach that sort of max point is when you're set stop progressing pretty much is the main thing I want you to look at. And again, it, it's a tough one because like people think that they need to push the boat when it comes to max volume. Like, see, as long as the amount of volume you have is progressing, like you will be, you know, you will be growing, you will be adding
yeah.
new tissue. It's that simple. So I think that's something there. And again, when it comes to high versus low volume, there's not like a set parameters. It's like, you know, if you do this number of sets per week,
Yeah,
because
you're
high
in the
volume,
high volume category. Like, it's not a,
it's just not a
it's
thing,
such
mate.
an arbitrary number. Like, it's
100%. And I think that especially with like different body parts, like your bigger muscle groups, like your quads, chest, back, etc., it's going to be very person dependent again because the amount of number of sets that I can do and recover from when it comes to my arm volume is going to be much higher when it comes to things like quad, chest, back, for example,
Yeah,
because it's much less fatiguing in a sense as well. But again, volume isn't just the number of sets you do; it comes down to the intensity, the frequency. It all works in synergy, and that's something to take into consideration
yeah,
as well. So, for example, when I have clients who are newer to the process, yes, they don't need as much volume to grow, but at the same time, their intensity is most of the time not as high, or they're not able to take their sets as
yeah,
close to failure as someone who is very advanced. So, therefore, I might add in a little bit
yeah.
more
You
volume
make
because
up
of that.
for it with that extra
Yeah,
volume. Yeah,
because it's the effective reps that matter. The
mm,
reps that are close to failure, how much effective reps you can build up in a session will sort of dictate the volume, in a
yeah,
sense. And
hundred
so again,
percent. Yeah,
if someone's newer and they lack that training skill, the amount of effective reps they can build up will be a lot less compared to someone who is to have a higher training age,
yeah,
and much more skilled. So that's something you take into consideration as well. But again, the main thing to take away from this is fuck about and find out. As you said, you only know what you can recover from, do, progress from by doing it. And again, using your logbook as a tool there is key. So doing the max you can recover from, what is sort of, we kind of covered that there, but what is sort of, the signs that you're doing the max? How would you sort of say that?
I honestly, like you will feel like a zombie. Like if you are
Yeah.
doing the maximum, you'll feel like a zombie. Even towards the end of the sessions, after your sessions, you will just feel like that general sluggishness, brain fog. And as I say, if you are doing the max so that you can recover from, there probably will be times where you won't be able to recover from that as well, with obviously variability within your day to day life. So again, I get that's something that you could probably look out for as well, like shifts in the logbook, as in just like even stalls, and then obviously shifting down the sort of regression route. But yeah, it's kind of simple. I just go off a feel, to be honest, for the most part, like because I know how I
Mhm.
feel when I'm overtraining. Like
Yeah.
I just
Like
feel like I slapped ass. Like
you will feel it. You'll feel
yeah,
if you're pushing about volume. Like, but
yeah,
see at the same time, like I don't necessarily feel fresh, 24/7 outside the gym. Like I
oh
do
yeah,
feel, you know what I'm saying? But it's a case of that balance. Like you can feel a little bit battered. You're not gonna feel fresh as a daisy 24/7. And honestly, I don't think you necessarily should be. I think
yeah,
if you do feel so fresh, like you probably have more volume to do. You have
yeah.
more
You're
to give in
probably
a
on a
sense.
lower volume, whatever that
Yeah.
means.
But see, even if you feel a good bit battered, but every single set is progressing super well, like that's a sign that you're probably doing like close to max what you can recover from, and that is like I wouldn't say the perfect spot to be, but it's a great spot to be in. Great spot
Yeah,
to be in.
yeah,
That is
hundred
sort of
percent.
how I go about that. But things as well to just to look out for again, very person dependent, is how fatigued you feel. So for my again, some people touched on there is your digestion, but for me, that's something that when I really get like I'm really fucked, the first thing that goes for me is my sleep, and
Yeah,
I can tell. See when I struggle to fall asleep, I'm very I struggle to wind down at night.
yeah. You
That's a
get kind
sign
of
that
restless and stuff.
yeah,
I'm
that's
kind
what
of
I
the
was looking
same, to
for.
be fair.
That's a big sign that I'm fucked, and I need to take a step back because that's when again fatigue is accumulation over time. You won't necessarily, feel fucked because you've just done like one hard set. Like it's accumulation of,
Yeah, yeah,
weeks and weeks and weeks. Or let's say you have, a week or a couple of weeks where you're pushing the boat of training. You're maybe taking a few more assisted reps. Like that just builds up over
yeah.
time. You know what I'm saying? So again, that's sort of the first sign for me. And I'm like, okay, I need to just be a little bit wary of, maybe how far I'm pushing it in my sessions. Again, this has come with time. Like, see if you're new to training, etc. You don't need to be worrying about this. You need to be worrying about actually just trying to push the boat out too far.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I seen it. I seen it. I'm assuming this boy's not going to watch a podcast anyway. The young boy in JP's, like he was like, I actually don't even know what he was doing. Um, with how like, there's like a kind of group of them where they'll like put like cuffs on their forearms, and then they'll hold a
and
D handle,
D
and
handle. I just saw it yesterday. Yeah, I
they
saw it yesterday.
yank it, and then they
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
dead stop it and stuff like that. Like those are the type of people who should just be focusing on just training hard,
yeah,
be accurate, and train hard, and you can worry about all this shit later.
yeah. Like it, you almost you need to earn your stripes almost. Like you
Yeah,
need to. You like. we're saying this now, and again, we've learned from experience because we have pushed it too far. You know, I
Mhm.
mate, anything that I could have done in this process to push it too far, I've pushed it too far. I've got too fat. I've pushed too much volume. I've
Dug too
fucking
hard.
ate too much food. I've dug too hard. Like I've literally been to every single extreme you possibly can be, and I've learned so much from that because
Yeah.
I've learned from those mistakes, and I know to not like I know where sort of that middle ground is between all of them, where
Yeah.
that the most progress lies. And again, you don't know where that is until you push that. So I will 100% always recommend to people to push it to extremes, and do not be afraid to not sit in that most optimal range, because
Yeah.
you learn where those max points are. And again, I think there's a lot of positives to that as well. And you've been the same, mate. You have been the same, haven't you?
Yeah, just again, you just it's literally just about fucking about and finding out, pushing it to the max in every sort of walk of the process, and you will find where you operate best.
Yeah,
Like I operate pretty well where where I'm at the now, like from a body composition standpoint, maybe a little bit more fat on me.
yeah,
Um,
mate. I'm the exact same though, because like I'm weighing about 71 kilos right now. Like I feel amazing. Like
yeah,
right now, I'm at a spot where it's like a perfect middle ground. But however, when I get deeper into gaining phase, I know I'm probably going to feel a little bit more sluggish. But again, that like I can't just live at this point and just not put on more body weight, because
yeah,
realistically, yes,
and just stay comfortable.
yeah, like again, the majority of your physique development journey, if you're wanting to maximize progress, you're probably going to be uncomfortable, and that's harsh
Mhm.
reality.
Yeah, the only times where you're going to be comfortable, I think, is the first few weeks of a diet, reversing out
Yeah,
of a diet.
100%.
That's not a prep.
Yeah, 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 100%. And like I'm kind of like at that point now where like I put on a bit of body fat, like I'm still relatively lean again. My body like prefers being a little bit leaner. Like again, like when it comes to certain body parts, like I'm still pretty peeled in some areas, and I'm
Yeah,
still pretty
corns
lean. But
specifically. Yeah,
I'm at the point now as well where like I'm feeling good. My recovery's fucking nailed. My digestion's spot on. Like I'm looking forward to it on my meal style. My training's progressing really well. However, when I get put a little bit more body weight on, when I get past that, usually for me it's a past that like 73 kg range. When I get into those mid 70s, late 70s, that's when I start to kind of feel a little bit sluggish. But again, that's probably where the most progress comes, when my training just I feel unstoppable in the gym.
yeah.
Like that feeling just can't be beaten, mate. That feeling cannot be beaten.
Uh,
But last question I got here is just in regards to sort of how much sets to do per exercise. So the person who asked this, his first language isn't English, so I'm going to try and kind of translate here. It's pretty much asking, doing 3 sets per exercise. So is that gonna be too much? So again, we sort of covered that in regards
depends.
to
Yeah, it's all about
depends.
effective reps. But that's the sort of
Yeah,
bottom line.
but what you need to realize is like isolation exercises, like most of the isolation exercise I program will be more likely to be 3 sets compared to like a squat pattern where it may be, 2 sets. However, again, very, very person dependent. It's again finding out again when it comes to that stimulus to fatigue ratio. Again, this is a sort of an advanced topic, but every set isn't going to be equal. When you do a stiff leg deadlift, that's going to be a lot more taxing on your
Yeah,
CNS. It's going to produce a lot more fatigue compared to the bicep curl. It's not sort of comparable. And again, every set that you do will have sort of a different outcome when it comes to the amount of fatigue it's going to bring up. So that's something you also need to take into consideration. But I would like to start off with, your big compound list. Start off with pretty much max 2 sets from there. And
yeah,
then
I'd
if you
agree
want
with
to
you.
add in more volume, you can look to add in more volume. But again, when it comes to, I would probably be looking to add in more volume in the isolation lifts, because again, the stimulus to fatigue ratio is going to be, a lot less pretty much.
Yeah, aye, no, 100%. I kind of just start with 2 sets across the board, and
Yeah,
then from there, again, you fuck about and find out. Like you
yeah,
see how the person reacts to X, Y, or Z, and then you make changes, adaptations from there if need be. But there's no like perfect. There's no like perfect. You should be doing this amount of sets because literally every one person is different. No one
yeah,
person has got this exact same recovery capabilities. The needs for the physique, the demands that they need from a stimulus standpoint to grow, depending on obviously where they're at in their process, it's so like, person dependent. So there's no like magic number. As long as you're not doing fucking upwards of 5 sets,
yeah.
you're probably
I
going to
think the thing is like when to add in more volume as well, because especially new clients who come on board with me, like they might be, the first couple of weeks, they might start to ask, I think I can get away with a little bit more volume here, but
Mhm.
realistically, you don't actually know till you've actually done the program consistently for a few weeks as well. So that's what I'll be looking as
Yeah.
well. Like you should not be increasing volume every single week, because you don't actually know if, you know, you can actually get away with that volume yet. And it takes a few weeks to sort of, get your body used to it, see how your body's reacting again.
Oh.
Fatigue is accumulation over weeks and months over a long
Mhm.
period of time. So that's
Yeah.
something to take into consideration as well. Is not rushing that progress as well. And again, the importance of that's something I need to go over quite a lot of clients as well. Is just like sticking to the plan, mate. Just focus on doing the same movements every single week. Like, see if you're constantly chopping and changing. Like,
Yeah. Mhm.
see, even if your plan isn't as optimal as compared to someone else, however, they're doing the same program, the same movements every single week, they're taking their lifts up, they're probably going to make more progress in most scenarios compared to the person who has the most optimal this, but they're constantly changing. Like that
Yeah. Uh-huh.
consistency of doing the same movements is honestly so, so
Mhm.
important.
Like, when you become more accustomed to a movement, you genuinely can't beat the feeling of, like,
100%.
I feel like I know that side bend's leg press inside out. Like, I know it like the back of my hand. I know where it gets heavy.
Yes.
I know where I need to brace. Like, I literally, it's as if I was almost born to side bend's leg
Yeah.
press. And when you keep chopping and changing from these movements, you then need to build up that, like, accustomed to, if that is a word,
And,
to
and it
what.
takes a few weeks.
And it take it, like, to get, like, super accustomed to a movement, it can take, like, ages, man. And
Mate,
obviously,
months. Months.
when it comes to, like, the neurological adaptations as well, like, people will be like, "Oh, the progress is really slow, the progress is stalling." Good. That's where you
Good.
should be. Like, obviously, you'll have clients that ask, like, "Oh, can I change this movement?" Like, the first question I always ask is, "Why?" Like, "Why?
Yep.
Why do you want to change it?" Like, what is the rationale
Exactly.
behind it? I'm not against it, but what's the rationale behind it? And
Yep.
then you just give your point of view, um and then go from there. But yeah, I'm the same. I like to stick to movements, obviously that you enjoy, and for the, like, literally for however long I've been with Josh, like nearly 80 weeks, I have ran like the exact same Monday leg
Yep.
session, the
Literally.
exact same.
Literally. And the enjoyment should not come from changing your program, changing movements. It should come from progress. Like, just see when you get so accustomed, as you said, like the Cybex leg press, mate, like you don't even have to think about it. You just get on it. You're just locked in, and all you need to worry about is just taking the set all the way there. Like that's
Yeah.
such a positive, place to be in, and it's so
Mhm.
so important. I think that's what a lot of people lack because again, a lot of people lack that within their own process is just doing it for a long period of time, and
Yeah.
it again patience, mate. Patience
Yeah.
is almost like the conclusion of pretty much all the topics we went over here when it comes to volume, when it comes to food, is just patience.
Yeah.
Patience, 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 and
100%.
consistency. So the last topic we have here is just about dieting and retaining tissue. Pretty much what they've asked here is just sort of when it comes to nutrition and training, they pretty much just want us to go into depth about how to manage both of them to retain tissue in a diet. So we'll start off with the nutrition since we just went over training. Nutrition when it comes to retaining tissue. So again, I'll start off here. Something we went over is just carbohydrates. Carbohydrates. That's going to be sort of your main driver towards training performance. Again, training performance is the utmost important variable when it comes to retaining tissue.
Yeah.
But something we also went over yesterday after your hotspot setting, something I was kind of talking to you about is, again, it's the balance between, maintaining numbers of the logbook, but again, the priority is
Mhm.
retaining the stimulus and not sacrificing the stimulus for the
Yeah.
sake of retaining a number in the logbook. That's, again, where problems occur. Like, realize, especially in a contest prep, obviously it's it's very dependent on if it's just a diet or a contest prep, but a contest prep, especially the condition you're in now, you may start to see, when you have a lot less body weight on you, you're a lot leaner, you don't have the stability for things like pressing movements, etc. And
Mhm.
these are sort of the first movements where you might start to see a little bit of regression. But again, that regression in the number in the logbook isn't necessarily a regression in the stimulus. And that's what you need to
Yeah.
sort of be able to decipher between. So what's your thoughts there on regards to nutrition, especially when it comes to retain tissue in a diet?
Realistically, you need to sufficient carbs pre-workout. It's obvious.
Mhm.
It's But the way I like to think about it is the less food that you have, the more it matters where you spend it. It's literally like money. Like, if you've got hundreds
Yeah.
of money, it doesn't matter where you fucking spend it because you've got hundreds of it.
Yep.
Whereas if you're running a bit on a tight budget. Again, I like to go off of, let's just say, 4 meals a day, because that's what probably most people will run. Um, pre-workout is of highest priority. Then I would go, assuming pre-workout's meal number two, pre-workout, then last meal of the day, post-workout, first meal of the day. Realistically, you do not want to be hungry going into your session. That is
Big
going to
one.
have detriment impact on the session itself, the quality of the session, and likewise we're going to sleep as well. Like that is literally where the muscle is going to be built. Like
Mhm.
that is literally where you repair and grow. So you don't want to be hungry going to bed. Again, you're waking up through the night hunger. That's just disrupting your sleep. It's not going to be productive towards your goals in any way, shape, or form. Um, but like realistically, like from like a another nutrition sort of standpoint, like nothing changes for me specifically from like a food source standpoint. It's just the same foods but less.
Yeah.
Like the minute, like I actually I'm really against like when it comes to diet and the minute you start dieting, you've all of a sudden you've got why is there 4 sweet meals a day?
Yeah.
Why is there fucking low calorie sauce everywhere? You wouldn't do that in a gaining phase. What the fuck are you doing? Like
100%.
over volumizing meals and stuff like that. Like that is something that it's just there's no need for that in my opinion. Just to kind of again, this is not really nutrition, but it's kind of just from well, that is kind of just embracing the hunger. Like you're
Yeah.
not going to get anywhere if you're just constantly trying to run from that feeling of being hungry. It's going to happen. Stop trying to suppress it, and especially stop trying to suppress it with like over volumizing foods because that's just not productive towards digestion. It's not productive towards keeping your midsection tight in
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form. But yeah,
That's a big one. Just accept the hunger. Just
yeah,
don't try and do yes, if you are really hungry, there's small things you can do that are easy to do that isn't sort of
hmm
going to affect your process. But again, it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope, and it can lead to a lot of issues. But I think a big thing, sort of when it comes to nutrition, is overall how you set up the diet. So
yeah,
a longer diet, but dieting off more food, a slower rate of loss, I think is always going to be beneficial towards retaining tissue as well. And
yeah,
again, when it comes to prep, your prep start point, how aggressive your prep needs to be. Again, let's take you for example, your prep start point, solid prep start point, high amount of food. Right now, you're fucking peeled, your glutes are coming in, hands for detail, you're very, very lean, and look how much food you're eating. Again, when it comes to training performance, you have more fuel towards training performance.
yeah,
Your training performance is more likely to sustain, performance very, very high, which again is going to retain the tissue. You're retaining that stimulus, which is the main variable. When it comes to your nutrition, recovery, your sleep, all these things are simply just to fuel training performance, which again is so important. So how aggressive your diet is, if you from the get go you're eating poverty food, poverty macros, your training is more likely to slip because you have less fuel.
yeah,
So again, that's a big one there. It's just sort of how you set up your diet,
yeah.
how
It's all in the
aggressive it
setup.
is as well. Yeah, how I like to say it as well, it's like almost like it, how I think about it, let's say you're doing a drag race, right? And you
Mhm.
have what do you call like nitro boost, right?
Yeah,
Right, you have nitro boost, right? And from the start, someone uses it like right off the start.
mhm.
But then the other car uses it, when they're at top speed and they use it. Like
Yeah,
who's gonna win? Who's gonna be
yeah,
faster at the end of the race? Like at the start, the car who uses the boost might be a little bit further ahead, but eventually, that other car just fucking surpasses it. You know what I'm saying? And goes further and gets to the finish line faster. So that's sort of how I would like to sort of look at that pretty much again. So that's sort of the main thing when it comes to retaining muscle in a diet. When it comes to setting out your diet is a big one as well. But training, so training wise, I think volume as well is a big one here. So again, when it comes to how much volume you need to grow compared to how much volume you need to retain the tissue, you're going to need less volume to retain the tissue. Okay, so
mhm.
that's a big one there. But again, the importance is retaining the high quality work, the high quality stimulus. That is what is going to retain the tissue. And again, that isn't always the numbers in the logbook. There's a big difference. You need to make sure that yes, you are having that balance of doing your best and getting fucking at it to retain as much numbers as you can, but ensuring that that isn't coming at you're not sacrificing the quality with that as well.
Yeah. I think when it comes to like kind of shifting the mentality from growth to maintenance in a diet, because realistically like, I'm confident that I'm still growing right now
Yeah,
with where I'm at, and I feel like for the most part a lot of people would maybe jump the gun to like I'm going to try and maintain, I'm going to like take sets off of here and take sets off of there. You don't want to be doing this prematurely. At the end of the day,
yep,
it's a tool lost. And in a diet, I think it's easy to be like, oh, I'm just going to put the set as a leg press from 2 to 1. It's an easy thing to do, but realistically, if you don't need to do it, then don't fucking do it. Like, don't jump the gun prematurely. Like, since I've been in prep, the only volume adjustments we've made is been from 3 sets of abs to 2 sets of abs, and it was just to do with session length. That was
Yeah,
literally it. Like,
yeah,
no adjustments to like leg press, no adjustments to like your heavy hitters, because you don't need to. You don't
yeah,
need to adjust these until you don't need to do it until you need to do it. Like,
yeah,
don't adjust these until you've got the signs that you need to. Um, and I think that comes a lot. Like, it doesn't come as quick as people think it does. Like, to take myself for example, like, I'm pretty lean right now, and I think a lot of people would maybe get to this condition and think, oh, there's not going to be growing anymore, but
yeah,
it's not the case. It's really not the case. Like, you can still grow. It's just a case of, as I say, just don't jump the gun with taking away sets. Again, it's taking away stimulus. Although the priority is, those quality fucking sets. The more of them that you have, the more chance it comes to growth at the end of the day.
yeah. The only volume adjustment I would probably recommend out the gates of a diet, like straight out the gates, is just taking away set extenders. So like things like your
Yeah.
drop
Oh
sets,
yeah,
your rest
100%.
pauses.
Yeah, yeah. I don't do
Like,
any of that anyways. To be fair, I almost kind of thought it forgot it even existed.
yeah, I'm literally saying, but I think that's something to point out as well. Because when you're in your growth phases, like you have that sort of extra recovery capabilities with the more
Mhm.
food, with the more fuel, you're in a surplus. Obviously, you can get away with that. But when it comes to deficit, you're not you're again, when it comes to the fatigue to stimulus ratio, it's going to be a lot more fatiguing for the stimulus you're going to get, and it just isn't worth it at the end. You probably won't have the recovery capabilities to recover from that. So again,
Mhm.
that's a big one there. But another thing as well is, again, it's sort of a smaller one, but rep ranges. So obviously, when you're in a deficit, especially when you get deeper into deficit, obviously you're going to have less available glycogen, pretty much. So
Yeah.
working in higher rep ranges, you're going to be burning through the glycogen a little bit more, and that's something to take into consideration more so in the depths of a contest prep.
Mhm.
When you are doing higher reps, you're using more glycogen, and with that, you're going to get more flatter. That's what you see as
Yeah.
well. Is like obviously when you're in deficit, you don't have as much glycogen available already. But if you pair that with doing higher rate ranges and burning through that even more, that's when you get even more flatter, even more depleted, and again that can affect. Again, you don't have as much energy in a surplus, therefore you're using more energy towards pretty much useless reps in a sense by doing higher rate ranges.
Yeah.
And obviously,
Literally.
very person dependent. There's a time and place to do higher rep ranges, especially when it comes to injury prevention, all of this. But where you can, I would be slightly more inclined to do slightly lower rep work. Anywhere between, preferably, 6 to 10 rep range, I think is a good
Yeah.
medium ground. It's sort of, I'm a big fan of, and what I recommend to clients who are in the depth of diet, especially. But that's super important there, and especially how you train as well, not doing like shitty pump work. You know what I'm saying? It's just a
Yeah,
waste of time.
that is
And again,
literally just a waste of time, waste of
yeah,
glycogen. You're going to dig
yeah,
yourself in a hole with how flat you get, like as you
yeah.
say.
You only have you have a lot less tools to play with when it comes to being a deficit. You need to be even
Yeah.
more strict and concise with how you train. I think that's super important there. So, anything else off the top of your head
Nah,
when it comes to
I think
training?
that's spot on. I think that's something that people don't often, think about, because they might just think, oh, like, struggling to get a pump, I'll 12 to 15, 12 to 15,
Yeah,
and just I'll feel the muscle, and the detriment impact. We've seen it with people before when you start training like that, especially towards the end of a prep, like it shows detriment
yeah.
so much in the physique. So yeah, as you say, like right now, most of my work is literally 6, 7, 8 reps. 6, 7. Six,
See
7.
as well, a bad cycle people can get as well is like, see when the pump starts to get worse and worse and worse. I've heard and seen people do is, with that, because their pump's getting worse, they add in even more volume, which is just going to make their pump even worse. And with that as well, again, you're just going to drive up fatigue. You're not going to be able to recover from that extra volume. And then with that, your performance starts to take a hit. And again, as we discussed, when the performance starts to take a hit, the stimulus drops off. That's when you lose the muscle. So again, not adding in more volume in a diet, that's probably the worst thing that you could possibly do. And realize that, the pump, like, we're not chasing the pump, we're not training for a pump. Okay.
Yeah.
It's honestly pretty irrelevant in most cases, in most scenarios. And the goal again is to maintain a high quality stimulus within your sets. Again, still fighting to retain performance, but not at the sacrifice of quality execution. Anything
But
else you want to talk about, Mr. Isra?
that is nail on the head, as they say.
I think we covered a lot there, mate. That was very good. That was very good.
Yeah. Mate, do you know what I was thinking? See that monster that I had, just like so off topic?
What flavour was it again?
Ultraviolet.
Is that the purple one?
Yeah.
I
You
think,
you
yeah.
ever had it?
Does it taste like, what's the little sweets called? You know, like the perma violet sweets?
Oh, Palmer violets. No, mate, it doesn't taste like Palmer
Oh,
violets.
okay, because I had it in America.
It does, mate.
What did it taste like?
Have you ever had, it's the Hydro EAAs, HR Labs, the grape flavour?
I've not, mate. I've not.
It's fucking rank.
Yeah, mega.
Really bad. Worse than the Ultra Paradise Monster, the apple one.
Listen, mate, you always get these fucking fancy ones, so just stick to the basics. The White Monster, the Ultra Rosa, the Lando Norris, and
The
the
Rosé.
what's yeah,
Yeah,
that's my favourite one.
yeah. That's
Those
like,
ones are just the only ones I have, mate.
mate, I just like it's got to the point. I just love cracking open a monster, not even for like the caffeine. I just love the taste and like
Taste, yeah, it's good, mate.
it's fucking good on it. Like I need to I need to get like a cheaper beverage one, like a zero caffeine one. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm not even having it for the caffeine. I just have it because I love the fucking taste.
mate, Monsters should come out with a zero caffeine like version.
Yeah,
Like,
they need to come up with Monster Mini as well. Like imagine they did a
yeah,
Monster Mini like 300 mils
yeah, 300
or
mils, yeah.
500 mils. Like I don't want to have my midsection actually hanging over my fucking waistband.
As in, if Monster wants to sponsor the Inside the Process podcast, just let us know, mate. Just let us know.
Just
Just
send
let
us
us
an
know.
email. I'll get back to you whenever.
Yeah, whenever I'm available. But that was a great episode, mate. As always, I've got an Endure muscle package coming between 2 and 3, which is absolutely lovely.
What
Actually,
what we what we got?
I got Glyco Tank, so that is the
The GDA from them, isn't it?
GDA. Yep, trying it out. Again, honestly, all the things that I've ordered, which I'll run through, it's honestly just from like an experimental standpoint. I just want to see what it does. So I got the I don't know what it's called, the Sleeps Up.
Oh, apparently that Turbo Dreams. Apparently that's
Yeah,
really
Turbo
good.
Gyms. I've heard good things about it, and I've not been a fan of the other sleep supplements I've used, so I've got that to see that out. And I've also got glycine as well for sleep as well, because I'm
Right,
intrigued to see
nice, nice.
if that has an effect. But honestly, my sleep has been fucking mega, mate. Honestly, magnesium does more than enough for me,
Mhm.
for my sleep. Like, my sleep has been bang on, lately. But again, I'm just more so kind of intrigued, especially getting deeper into the off season and just introducing a GDA, see if that if that has any pauses on my, fasted blood glucose number in the morning. See if
Yeah,
I get a little more insulin sensitive. We'll see if that has an effect. But I think I'm going to take that pre and post workout and training days and rested. I'll probably take it for my last meal as well because that's my highest carb meal.
yeah.
Yeah, mega mate, mega. Well, that's another week of inside the process. A
We
lot of value
need to
as
get back
always.
on the beyond the process, man.
I don't know, mate. It's been 2 weeks. The
Wait,
boys have
it's
been.
cause it's why is JP? No, I'll talk to you about this after the podcast, man.
Oh no, oh no. Yeah, that's all from us. What have we got next week? Have we possible guest episode next week? Is that the plan?
Yeah, if we get our possible guest episode next
Yeah.
week.
Possible guest episode next week, so look out for that. But that's another week of Inside the Process. Again, if you want us to cover any topics, any questions regarding anything we talked about, and you want us to go into a little bit more in depth with, just let us know. Shoot over a message on Instagram. But that's all from us. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope you've got a lot of value. Again, mate, a lot of my clients, literally pretty much all my clients, like message me generally on a weekly basis saying that they genuinely
Yeah, we
learn
get
a
a lot
lot
of
from this
messages
as
on
well.
that.
And I don't just say this, but I genuinely recommend clients to like listen to this
Mhm.
so they can like gain more knowledge, more insight to apply to their own process. So again, thank you for watching, boys. That is all, and we shall see you next week.